First of all, how we see the world from the minute that we're born is really shaped by the language that's used around us. And so words are obviously very powerful in terms of not only how we make meaning of the world, but how we make meaning of our place in the world. So the impact of positive words has a huge impact on how we see ourselves and how we move through the world when we encounter things that are difficult. And similarly, if there's a negative perspective of ourselves that's reflected back to us in words, it has a huge impact on how we see the world from that perspective as well. So I work with a lot of people in the therapeutic side of the work that I do around trauma, and words are absolutely potentially traumatic.
I'm obviously a gay man. Growing up, I didn't have the support that I guess wanted to. I actually was told by my biological father that if I ever came out to be gay, he would kill himself. So that discouraged me completely to really be myself, and it kind of changed the way I looked at life, because I didn't want to necessarily be gay, because at the time, even though I was getting abused by someone, like by him, I still saw him as the father figure in my life. And so why would I want that to, I guess, why would I want him to kill himself because of something I did? So those words kind of really stuck with me for forever, and that, it just really tore me down. It kind of made me have like less self-confidence. I wasn't really happy about anything, because I was always hiding who I really was around everyone, just because in the back of my head, if I ever told anyone I was gay, he was going to kill himself. So I always kind of just kept moving forward and just ignored it. I'd say I was told that in about 4th grade, which was in about 2004, and I'd say that probably stayed with me until about 2014, 2015 time. So I'd say about 10, 11 years, just because I had came out to everyone else besides him, until finally one day he kind of mentioned it, that he knew I was gay and knew I was with someone, that I kind of was like, okay, well, at least he knows, and he's not killed himself for it. So I would say for some time it kind of stuck with me, and it just, I was always nervous to have him find out, even though I really, like I said, lost the connection, lost the relationship with him. I just didn't want necessarily someone to kill himself because of an action or something, the way I lived my life. There were times where I was told I was worthless, I wasn't going to amount to anything, just a lot of things that really, I guess, words that got to me. I was called pretty much every name in the book when it comes to cussing, when I was in the process of getting beat. Just, I mean, there were things that just always got told to me, especially me being worthless, not going to do anything with my life, just multiple things like that. And so at times it still does, I guess you can say, even now it still sometimes does come back and, I guess, hurt, just thinking about them at times in life. Because if I fail at something, not necessarily failing because I completely am bad at it, just because I didn't do it great that first time, it gives me a bad feeling, because it's like, maybe I am worth this, but even though at the end of the day I know I'm not, it just comes back to, I guess, haunting you sometimes.
Who says it is as important as what's said. So for example, you know, if you have a parent who knows you very well, if I think about clients I've worked with, a comment that might have been said 30 years ago by a mother to someone sticks in a way that a stranger on the street saying the exact same thing isn't going to stick, because we come up assuming, right or wrong, that, you know, gee, if my dad says it, it must be true about me because he really knows me. So I think that it's also about who's the speaker and how much credence do we give them about knowing our insides.
Well, growing up in high school, I used to struggle a lot with my academics. I wasn't the strongest student, or what most people call it, the A student. But I used to work really hard. And after I went to one high school back in Barbados, I transferred to one of what they call a very elite and a better high school back in Barbados. And so at this other high school, we have students that are intelligent. I mean, students that are super, super, super smart. So here I'm coming from a school where it's not elite or not, where students are known to be excelling in academics. Here I'm going to this other school that is really excelling in academics. Well, I was really great at running also, and I had this particular teacher, and I think that it was my motivation to keep going in life also. But she mentioned it not to me directly, but she mentioned it to my godmother. And she told my godmother to tell my mom, well, Katrina is not as smart as the other kids, and her mom needs to put her in what we call it back home, like the army, and because all she's good at is running track, and she's struggling in her work, and she's not as smart as the other kids. And for me, even though she did not say it to me to my face, just having someone else say those words to my mom, you know, those words always used to be in the back of my mind, because I always used to thought I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't intelligent enough, and you know, I had to work extremely hard to prove myself, I felt. Not to myself, not even to my mom, but to her. And for a long time, even last semester in my interpersonal communication class, I had a conversation with my professor, and we were talking. I didn't get 10 out of 10 on an assignment, and I went up to her because I am accustomed to getting 10 out of 10s and, you know, doing good. And I remember asking her, and she was like, where does this perfection come from? Like, if you do not do good on one assignment, you feel less than and stuff like that. And it's like, oh. It was coming back to me from years ago that I didn't recognize what the words she said was still affecting me to this day, because I was proving to her, hey, look at me, I'm smart, I'm intelligent. And yeah, that took me a long many years, and only recently getting over those discouraging words that teacher said to me.
There was times, just pretty much like growing up, you know, you around certain kids, they'd cause you to have like maybe less confidence in yourself, you know, the normal rig'em and roar stuff that even happened back then would challenge me. I was a pretty chubby kid when I was younger, and I was always being made fun of being fat and everything, and I had a lisp, and I had a lot of challenges. It would just be like, let's play dodgeball, we can use Mike as the ball, you know, anything that would be round shaped or something was usually thrown my way, and I'd always have to like laugh too, because I didn't want them to, you know, see that it really made me hurt. Oh, they tore me down. I think that was part of having like a lisp and everything also when I was a kid. I think all those factors contributed to me overeating and using food as a crutch, and because I'm hurting here, well, at least food makes me feel good, or, you know, I wouldn't want to be out and about. You know, there's times when I didn't want to go and play or anything like that, you know, and I would just want to hide in my room and just, but it was up to me finally to decide that's not where I wanted to go, and that's not who I wanted to be.
They said, shut up.
So when that person told you to shut up, how did that make you feel?
Sad. They said, you're fat.
That's not nice at all. So how did that make you feel when they said that?
It made me feel sad.
I have a mixed relationship with how words have affected me, because all my life I was berated and belittled by my family. So like I was, you know, called a little shit every day by my grandfather, or a little nuisance, or shit for brains, or anything like that, pretty much on the daily. Just like I wake up and that was like all day. And so like it just became a normal thing to be called, like, you know, be harshly spoken to, and to be told like I was such a faggot, or I was gay, or I was stupid, you know. That was just my home, you know. It wasn't. So it took me a long time to work through all that and try to find a way to not be that kind of person that I grew up in, because I used to do the same thing to the people, you know. When I was first coming out as trans to my family and such, I was talking to my grandparents, and they, you know, basically fully disowned me, because, you know, they said they couldn't have like which is funny because my cousin is trans, but you know, they were screaming. My grandma spent 20 minutes screaming at me in GameStop that I was gonna burn in like the fires of hell, and that like I was like forever forgotten, or not necessarily forgotten, but like just disowned in the family, and like that my grandfather was never going to speak to me again. And that really hit me hard. I didn't necessarily know how to take it. So losing my best friend of 18 years, like when I started to tell him, well, first I told him that I was bi, and he didn't take that well. He like started to cut contact off with me, which was hard to handle, because we used to talk like every day. We used to make jokes, we make up our own like silly songs together as kids. Like, you know, we've been friends since we were 4 years old. So learning that he could not accept the fact that I was a girl and still be my friend was incredibly difficult to handle. It was hard to let go of, you know. Those words really stuck with me. I don't necessarily exactly remember what he said. He said something along the lines like, I'm not responsible for the way that I make you feel, so like basically like have a good life kind of thing. And I was like, okay. I took it really hard at first when it happened.
Earlier today, my friend that was my friend last year, he's not my friend anymore because he's being mean, and today he was calling me like some mean words.
What mean words was he calling you?
He was calling me like I was an idiot, I was a moron, and I was stupid. I felt sad.
Yeah, that would make me feel sad.
And then I tried helping myself not to push him, but I just got so angry I ran up and pushed him.
When I was in school, one kid once told me, you're never going to get anywhere in life because you're doing so bad in school. So that brought me down.
Yeah. I don't care about anybody else but myself. And it brought me down a lot because I do care, and I don't want anybody to think that way. I was really, really hurt and upset because they got that kind of feeling from me, and I really didn't mean to put that impact on them in any way.
When I lived in Illinois, it was the Midwest, so it was like predominantly Caucasian people. When I worked at the credit union, I was a floater. So I worked at a credit union when I was in Illinois, and I was a floater, which was somebody who just kind of filled in whenever they needed a body at one of the branches, basically. So one day I was sitting there at this branch, and it was kind of in like a upper class area of Illinois, if you will. And so this guy didn't know me. He was, I guess, a member who came into the same branch all the time, used to seeing the same people, and he saw me. And he made some snarky comment about, oh, they just let anybody work here now? I think I need to change branches or banks or whatever he said exactly. And it kind of
caught me off guard at first, and I was like, excuse me, what was that? And he was like, I need somebody else to wait on me. I don't like your kind waiting on me. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what he meant by that. I was kind of upset, but at the same time I was like, what kind am I? So that just kind of like stung me in a different way, and kind of in a way that I wasn't fully prepared for, I guess, because I have always been the kind of person who doesn't particularly care what other people say or think about me. So I went ahead and got somebody else to wait on him. I went and did something else. I walked away from the desk because I just didn't really want to be bothered by him anymore. And I guess later it came up that he thought I was Hispanic. And so he thought I was an illegal person that smuggled across the border, or some sense of that. So that's what his snarky comments were meaning. So it's just kind of one of those things of, again, it kind of hurt me in a way that I wasn't prepared for it to hurt, just because I don't particularly care about how other people think or feel about me. So when he said that, it just caught me off guard, and it hurt a little bit. And I guess that was like my first real face-to-face, if you will. Like, granted, I've seen like racism and snarky comments like that to friends and people, but when it hit me directly at home, it kind of hits different when it's like you compared to somebody that I like really care about, and like somebody saying something to them. So it hurt different, I guess. And then I was also taken aback because I allowed this man to kind of affect me, and in that moment and in that day. But I mean, it didn't sit with me for long. Obviously, I still think about it because it's still something that comes up, and that's been a few years. But it just kind of makes me more mindful of the things that I say, and then to kind of be an advocate for people who don't have a voice or feel like they don't have a voice, or for people who are being belittled or talked down to, or kind of just broken apart and torn down because of who they are, be it race, gender, ethnic origin, religion, whatever the case is. So, I don't know, I think that kind of boosted me up after the fact, as opposed to just tearing me down completely.
I think I go back to something that a mentor of mine once said, and he said, the most universal anxiety that human beings have is the idea that even if you never say it out loud, something's wrong around here and it must be me. And if you think about us all carrying that little seed around wherever we go, it makes us very vulnerable to other people's interpretations of us and to negative words. I often work with people who, if you trace down where they got an idea about themselves that's a limiting kind of a belief, they can go back in time and find who said it when. And it was as a child, and they've been holding on to it, and that's been their lens on the world ever since. So they've continued to hold that belief about themselves and then continue to live it out without even realizing it. So absolutely, the power of words when you're in your teens, younger, when you're even a little kiddo, those seeds are planted deep.
Don't ponder too much on something negative, because the more you think about it, like, it's like a seed that you'll plant in their brain, and it just grows the more you think about it.
It's those seeds that we plant that you hope will give our kids the strength they need for later when we're not there to speak that into them, so that they can draw from that memory bank and realize and remember who they really are, and that one moment of hesitation or one bad comment isn't going to stop them from doing what they want to do, be who they want to be. And that's what I really hope for my kids and my family.
one thing my mom taught me was to kill everyone with kindness. You know, if someone's like, you know, barraging you, or I don't even think that's the word, just, you know, just constantly throwing insults at you, or just telling you you're never going to succeed, or you're always going to fail, you just say thank you and walk away. You know, thank you and smile and walk away. She's always said that as long as I can, you know, put my mind to it, I can go anywhere. You know.
I think for me, it would have to be my journey to come to the United States. I was really working hard in track and field, like, you know, early mornings and late nights. But my mom, she always used to be my picker-upper. You know, she always used to be encouraging me and telling me, she always used to say to me, Katrina, the race is not for the swift, it's who endureth to the end. You know, she always used to tell me that, and I think for me, that was my motivation. That became a real encouraging moment for me. It was within that moment, I had the best race of my life. I could still remember it was back in 2012, and my mom said, the race is not for the swift, it's who endureth to the end. And I remember listening that one day, listening to my worship music, and I was about to be up against one of the fastest women in Barbados at that time. But before I got to her, I ran the prelims. And I ran like 11:97, which was like the fastest time I have ever run before. But it was these conversations I was having with my mom, and she praying for me and she believing in me, that really like made me believe that there is better. You know, so I think that for me, that was the moment where she says those words to me on the track at that stadium in 2012, you know, really made a huge impact on my life from till now.
Coach gave me the tee. I kicked and I got it all the way to the other side. So after that, all my friends were like, good job, Juan. Like, I didn't know you had it in you, and like, you did great.
My first time playing flag football, I was really kind of nervous, and I didn't know, and I was starting, and I got the ball first play, and then I ran it all the way back and scored, and everyone was congratulating me, and it made me feel good because I never played before.
I got into sports. I was a cheerleader all throughout high school, and knowing that I could be myself there and just doing something I liked, I guess really inspired the confidence for me to just build myself up and I guess live my life how I want to live my life. Just having people around me just always encouraging me to be the best that I can be, and that's kind of what helped out. And my grandmother is probably one of my best friends, and through this whole thing she just kept telling me that just keep looking at the bigger picture, just keep pushing forward. Make sure you go to college, make sure you get out of here, make sure you do something. And she always kind of just told me someone has it worse than you do. She wasn't really saying what you're going through is not important. She just always kind of helped me realize that what I was going through, someone had it a little bit worse. That's kind of how I got through a lot of things, because although what I was going through was a really traumatic thing, I just had to keep telling myself, someone has it worse. This is not the worst that it can get. You can get through this, just keep pushing forward. So that just, I guess, helped me go into college and just really have the college life and just realize that because of my past, I don't have to let my past affect my future. And that's kind of how I got through a lot of things, was just because she just said, someone has it worse than you do. Remember that and just keep pushing forward. So I always kind of just kept a bigger picture look at it.
One of the biggest times that I really remember was actually when I went into the Marine Corps. In boot camp, they break you down in order to build you up. And I remember my drill instructor, I was having a hard time. It was about probably the 4th week into boot camp, and I wasn't we ran the obstacle course daily, and there was a part of it I couldn't figure out how to get over You know, I was letting my height prevent me. I was letting the weight I had on before I went in the Marine Corps affect me. And so I went to talk to the drill instructor, and you know, that's kind of a scary moment when you're in your first phase of boot camp, because you're like lower than scum, you know, is what they tell you. But it's that kind of stuff that builds you up, because he let me come into the office and he said, you know, he was just like, little T, you just got to understand, we're breaking you down, we're going to build you up, and come second phase, that obstacle's not going to be a problem for you anymore. You'll learn how to work through your obstacles. And I took that, you know, I was like, duh. The obstacles, we learn how to work through obstacles. And so what I ended up doing is, in second phase, I actually buddied up with another recruit who was a little bit bigger than me and didn't have as hard of a time to get over the wall as I did. He planted himself and I just ran up his back and got over the wall, and then he came over the wall. We learned how to get over our obstacles. In the Marines, we don't just do everything by ourselves. We don't win wars by ourselves. We don't win battles by ourselves. It's as a collective, you know, so you have to have people you can depend on, and that usually helps build confidence as well. Because if you've got a bunch of people on your team totally speaking good things over your entire team, everyone benefits.
So they said, you look pretty.
That's awesome. How did that make you feel?
That made me feel happy.
Happy? Yeah. So when it made you feel really happy, how long did you carry the happiness from someone telling you that?
Like forever. One time I was just sitting because I had no one to play with, and they said, do you want to go play with me? And I said yes, and that made me feel really happy. Whenever I was playing football, my football coach said he was telling me good things, like you're good at football and stuff.
My grandma Eva, who was like a second mom to my mother, kind of helped my mom raise me. She was a single mom, and she just, the way she was with all the kids, with like, she had 13 grandkids and then me, the little odd man out, who she'd taken in as her own. She was also one of the like daycare directors or teachers at her church, actually, and just the way she was with kids, her loving, gentle, kind heart, just the way she spoke to us. She was always so soft-spoken, but we all respected her. The way she kind of guided us and then brought us up, and those sorts of things just kind of inspired me to want to be a teacher. She was why I wanted to get my degree in education and go into teaching. She's who I'm naming my daughter after once I have her, but she just kind of, she was always a positive role model to me, and she was always somebody that I looked up to, and just, again, with the kind heart and the tender heart, and an advocate for children, and somebody who kind of just fought for the kids and protected the kids, and also brought them up and just inspired them and kind of molded them to be who we are, I guess, basically, who we grew up into was because of her. And so I don't know that it was anything like in one particular thing that she said, but she was always just like, just a positive woman and a loving woman, and had such a kind and gentle heart. Like, I don't ever remember her disciplining us or getting on to us, and we were not good kids, so it wasn't as if like we didn't warrant it or need it, but the way she would go about doing it was always with like a loving and kind heart, and kind of just never yelling, I guess, never scolding, just kind of redirecting, I guess, if you will. And so I because of that, that's what made me want to become a teacher, and made me want to just be a positive person, and that was from an early age. So yeah, nothing like in particular that she said, but her actions and the way she spoke to us was always just like loving and positive and gentle, and it just inspired me to want to be the same way, although it doesn't happen all the time. I try.
Words that are affirmations. are always positive, you're good at this, you're great at this, that kind of thing. Words that are derogatory are obviously negative words. I think that additionally, though, that there are words that are positive in that they emphasize possibility. So the first impact of words, whether someone gives us a compliment or where someone tears us down, is that it hurts initially. But I think the more powerful impact that words can have is that we see the world based on the stories that we've been told. So if someone tells me that I'm not capable, what we tend to do as human beings is we scan the environment to see evidence of whether that's true or not. And what we start to find, of course, is we tend to find whatever we're seeking. So if I'm told that there's something wrong with me, I scan and I find plenty of evidence that that's true. Alternatively, if someone tells me that I'm capable or kind or have a special kind of ability that's unique, I tend to look for opportunities in the world to affirm that. Oh, I'm smart? Oh, look, see, I got evidence that I'm smart. So it's the impact of words is far beyond the initial statement that's made. It's absolutely about how it creates a lens for us about how we see the world. And that's self-perpetuating. So over time, we may not remember that someone said something to us that was either positive or negative, but it affects us in the patterns because of what we look for and what we don't. I think that we are all needing to understand how we're seen, and we're all needing to feel connected, that the fact that we're here matters, that somebody sees us. So even if it's for a small thing, as long as it's sincere, there's data out there that shows at a physiological level, we absolutely respond to having positive words said about us and being appreciated and being seen. We're built for connection, as human beings. And then when we feel isolated, our mood changes. So being seen in a positive way absolutely has that positive impact. I think that the piece that we don't always realize is that it has an impact on both the speaker and the receiver. And it's a great experiment to try to really kind of say, I'm going to look for 5 people to catch in the act of doing something really special. And so it might be the person, that's checking your groceries for you. Just saying, wow, you really are quick with this. You've got this all figured out. Or just even acknowledging, wow, that color looks great on you. I really see your smile is really set off by that. Those sorts of things not only make the receiver feel seen, it allows us to feel connected, that we're connected to other people. We're not just kind of walking around in our own fog.
Absolutely. Because you can say something like, stop doing that, or stop doing that. It's very different. And you can say things 20 different ways. You could be like, that same sentence, you could be like, stop doing that, please. The way you project something is much more important than the word itself. Body language is a big thing. I mean, with acting, for one, how you deliver a line changes the whole way an audience hears it. So it's the same thing with a conversation. How your audience receives what you're saying is very much varied not just by the words you're saying, but also the inflections you have in your words, and the pattern, the beat to it. All of that can affect how someone feels.
For me, a lot of it is the tone of the voice can have a lot of impact. You can hear people's tones, if they're they can have a lot of excitement and a lot of happiness and a lot of energy if they're really being positive with you. And to me, that kind of brings my energy up when someone is really being, you hear it in their tone.
For me personally, I would say it would be, presentation, body language, tone, and then also what my relationship with you is. Because if my mom or dad or best friend were to be disappointed in me, I would weight that definitely more than a person that I consider a close friend, but not necessarily my best friend kind of thing. I've known this person for 10 years. So there's somebody who is close to me, but at the same time, I may not particularly care too much on if they're disappointed in my thoughts and actions, because you're not really contributing to my home life, if you will, where you're not paying bills, you're not raising my child, you're not doing anything of that nature. I don't. So, yeah. Volume, voice, inflection, body language, and relationship all kind of weights on how I react, I guess, to the way you say or do things to me.
Good job. You look nice today.
You're a great friend.
I'm proud of you.
Good job.
You're beautiful. You could do this. You're strong.
Like you're good at math, you're good at sports and stuff like that.
Something as simple as good job, a thank you, I appreciate you. You've done good. Things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, around knowing my family loves me, or, you know, they appreciate, I guess is the big word. It's just being appreciated for being me is nice.
You are not good enough. That was a horrible job. You could have done so much better.
You can't do anything. Right? Good job, but like in a sarcastic way. Someone does something wrong. Good job.
You're mean, you're dumb, you're stupid, and stuff like that.
You know, that you'll never amount to anything. You know, you're not good enough, you know.
I mean, your basic, like, you're an idiot kind of stuff would be, I guess, hurtful. The lack of appreciation kind of is a negative impact. But if I think, like, family life, personal life, you know, again, close family members, close people telling me that they're disappointed or they're upset about something that I did or said, that would affect me negatively and make me feel bad or sad for doing whatever it is that upset them in such a way, or that caused them to be disappointed in me in certain ways. I feel like there's plenty of negative words out there, but like I had said before, where it's depends on the person and the context and what's being said to me. I feel like more so for the mass majority of the public, just the not talking for me would be, or like no feedback, I guess, not just not talking, but no feedback is more hurtful than an actual word, I guess, I feel, when I think about it. Like versus this work sucks, over just not saying thank you for your hard work, I feel like would be more hurtful or more negative impact on my life versus, yeah, like an actual word.
Look at it. For me, it was that teacher, right? And she said that to me when I was like 16, 17. And I was 27 and still hearing those words. I can remember the acts that way. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like words are powerful, and even for me, I try to think before I speak, because you could apologize, but those words could still linger. Even if you said it out of anger, even if you say it out of, you didn't mean to say it, like, if it's hurtful, it could really hurt or damage someone's identity in themselves. You know, it could damage a relationship, it could damage friendship. So I definitely believe, I do not agree with that. Words are, even though they're small, you know, some are small, some are big, you know, I really believe that words are a powerful tool, and we have to be we have to learn to be discern when we should say what we should say. Because for me now, I look at it as I want to encourage everywhere I go, because I just know what it's like to be negative or hear negative words and the effect it has on people. It may plant a seed, or it may plant something, low self-esteem, low confidence within that person. Words are powerful, so I really believe that words could do more harm sometimes than good if you say it negatively.
That's a hard one, because I think it's partially true, but at the same time I think it's not true, because me growing up, I got mentally, verbally, and physically abused, so I know how words can hurt. And I think now, just because growing up and knowing the difference of it, I just tend to now let things go unless they really, I guess, hit a sore spot, if that makes sense. Most things I kind of just ignore, not because it's not important, I just ignore it because I don't want to feed into something when it's not needed to be, if that makes sense. So that's why sometimes I'm just like, okay, and I just completely ignore what's being said.
False. Why is that?
Because words always hurt people in the world.
Well, it might not hurt them physically, but like mentally, it could hurt them really bad.
Do you guys feel like each and every one of you has been hurt by words at some point in time?
Yes.
No.
I think it depends on where you're at in life at times. There's times where words hurt more than sticks or stones, because words can actually cut deeper, you know, than sticks or stones can hit you on the outside, but those words, those can get on the inside and really mess with a lot of things. It's harder when you're younger, because we all, as we're younger, what people think of us means a lot, how they see us means a lot, and as we get older, we realize, you know what, I wasted way too much of my life worrying about that stuff, and I wish I wouldn't have. And I wish I wouldn't have allowed so many people to have hurt me with their words, because I'm still here.
I think people like to put on a front that they don't care, or that they're not affected by it, and they deep down are. I think more people want to not care, but they don't know how to not care. And I think a lot of that has to do with where we are at nowadays. Social media, reality TV, everything is so based on trying to become internet famous, or caring about what other people think about us, getting enough likes. This person has 100 likes, well, I better get 200 likes. This person has 1,000 friends on Facebook, I better get 2,000 friends. It's become so heavy and based on being accepted by everybody around us, that I think people put on the front of, oh, well, I don't care, but deep down they do care, or deep down they do want it, deep down they need that, they yearn for that. seeing how I've changed, like thinking about it, like how much I've changed in just a short number of years based on things or stuff that people have said to me that are close to me. Just I've obviously matured, maybe, grown up a little bit. It does, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, then I would say 10 probably, because I don't feel like anything like that was negative. It was positive to kind of, take a step back and reflect on, is this battle worth fighting? Or is this really the hill you want to die on, fighting over something so ridiculous? Or do you need to be so pushy in this sense? Like, can you scale it back to get the things that you want out of life without being so aggressive and being more assertive? So yeah, the people I consider most valuable to me and the words that they have said to me, I do feel have greatly influenced me and have kind of really pushed me in a positive light of I can do better or be a better version of myself because of things that they have said to me.
I have to sometimes brush it off and like keep moving on, because the more you think about it, the more you'll believe it.
If it's negative, I just try to think about something positive that happened.
Whenever, like, because I'm used to people saying, like, I'm stupid and mean and stuff, it doesn't really hurt me anymore.
I'd say a 10, and I'd say positively and negatively. It's a mixture of both, because there's some words that will have a negative impact. I mean, being 24 years old still can have a negative impact. There's some words that can have a positive impact, and some have switched around, if that makes sense. It depends on the circumstance and the person.
Even as an adult, even in my 40s, I have some times where I'm insecure, but I have to refocus and I have to remind myself where I came from, where I'm at now, and where the plan is to be. And I only know the negativity won't get me there as much as the positive will.
Not much. Well, yeah, a lot sometimes. It's mostly mean words, though. Because to me they both mean like kind of the same thing.
I think someone talking about me as a person, because at the end of the day, we sometimes won't necessarily admit that it hurts, but there's some things that someone can say and it may not hurt right then and there, it may not hurt today, tomorrow, later on, but that negative thought could always come back and really be like, well, this is really what someone else thinks about me. And so that's why I think at the end of the day, when someone really says something to you, it's going to stick with you whether it's good or not.
Me as a person.
Person.
Yeah, person.
Kind of both.
Yeah, I'd say both too. Because, like, if they say something about your appearance, like,
Then they're not.
if you're not matching, like, let's say I wasn't matching.
Then they're not really. They're judging you by your looks and not your character.
And plus, you could just change it if you needed to. But, like, as a person, it's harder to change than.
So if they're really saying something bad about your looks, then they're just misjudging you. And then if they're saying something bad about your personality, then it's kind of hurting because you don't think you're a good person.
It used to be, when I was younger, my physical appearance. Because I think when we're younger, we don't spend much time getting to know people. We judge them first by what they look, their appearance. And as I get older, I'm not so worried about how I look. Now, I will admit, anytime somebody says something about maybe getting old, it's like a little knife that stabs at you, but you laugh it off. But it's really me as a person. When they tell me, like, if I'm not doing a good job, or they they just say something like negative towards me, you know, that hurts at times. Not as often, but it just depends. Like if it's something I'm really proud of or something, and they just want to get your goat, yeah, there's certain people that can always do that, and you just have to bounce back. And so it's nice knowing as I get older, I realize that, and I bounce back even quicker.
And when you question my heart, because I like to think of myself as a good person and that I strive to do right by people, I strive to make people happy. When you question that or you say something negative about that, I think that hurts more.
So when you think about the idea of where does the drive come in verbal bullying, oftentimes in psychology, what we would be thinking about is that the old idea that sometimes a good offense is the best defense. People who tend to lash out using words or physical kinds of harm of others or bullying of others are often coming from the same place, that somewhere inside there's a place that they feel like maybe something's wrong with them, and the way to get away from that feeling is to project it out on someone else. And specifically, if you look at patterns in bullying, oftentimes it's someone who is vulnerable to buying into whatever the message is, whether they believe it fully at a conscious level, but it taps into that little worry deep inside that maybe there's something that's not okay with me. And so bullies tend to have a really natural sense of they scan for who to pick on, and they don't pick on everyone equally. They pick on the person where that message is going to land and have impact. And in a way, from a psychological perspective, if I'm a bully because I'm wounded inside, by offloading on someone else the feeling that I have of discomfort, now my feeling is over there and I don't have to carry it anymore. I would say that any kind of personal change has to begin with a desire to have some self-awareness. And sometimes that comes from a natural desire to grow and shift and change, because as much as it looks like a bully's comfortable, the good news is they generally aren't. Unless there's a really difficult personality disorder, most people who bully are not happy people.
It took me a long time to work through all that and try to find a way to not be that kind of person that I grew up in, because I used to do the same thing to the people, you know, when I first met Zoe. You know, that's how we used to talk to each other. It was all hatefully and disrespectfully. And so it's very hard for me to express emotion when it comes to the way words are said. I know they affect me, but like I've gotten a lot better, but I used to just, you know, I used to be like, whatever, you know, words are words, you know, just push them away. Zoe, my spouse, put it as it's like opening a faucet that's been rusted shut for 50 years, or in my case, 21 years. It's not gonna all just come out. It's gonna take some time. You know, it's gonna come out a little bit at a time, but when it comes, it's gonna come like a flood, you know.
It's taken me some time with my marriage. We'll just use that best thing. It's taken me some time to communicate. The best thing to do is start somewhere, because you have to start talking at some point. There's times where I still don't want to communicate because of the fact that, I guess you can say, the words and how I was treated growing up still affect me. But even in my marriage, I had to learn things have to be said in order to get better, because if you don't talk about anything, then it's going to just sit there. And so communication will go a long way versus you getting upset and not doing anything about it.
I thrive with good words. You know, especially when it's coming from people that I care about, or I love, or want to see me do well, and I may be going through a tough moment, or I may be going through something difficult, or I may not even be believing in myself within that moment, and someone comes along and says, they may not even be initially like thinking that I was having a bad day or anything, but something they said that was positive made me like, oh, that was good. I needed to hear that. You know, so I really think no, because of my perspective in the past, I've always seen negative or hearing negative repeated to me. My mom was really good at affirming good words into me. So I think, no, I am that type of person. When I hear good words, I try to grab them as fast as I can. Okay, you needed to hear this, and run with it.
I'm one of those weirdos that I always respond to everyone, or I always send someone a message. And I don't know if people think it's annoying, or if they think I just always want to have the last word. And that might be the case, but I just always want people to feel like they're wanted, because I felt like that so often that I wasn't wanted.
For me, being positive is, it's almost like a drug, if you know what I mean. It's like, that gets me that endorphin high that I like to be on. I like to be on positive. I like to be on, you know, where the joy is, where I know that my words are really influencing success and building motivation, and I just keep my blood starts pumping, and I get excited, and boom, we're off, and we're running.
Well, I think that the most important thing we can do in this situation is to understand that really as human beings, we come on the planet trying to do our best to adapt to the situations that we're in. And we get to a place where we don't even understand our own adaptations. And that's how we communicate, is we think we're saying the best thing. We think we're saying the most reasonable thing. But the reality is everybody's coming from different experiences. So I think that the first thing to understand is we're all here trying to do the best that we can. And secondly, if I can understand why someone sees the world the way that they do, I can find a bridge to meeting them in that place, versus getting stuck in my reality must be the only reality. First of all, I think that we tend to hesitate in giving as much appreciation as we could. I think we edit ourselves a lot. I know that sometimes in saying, oh, that's wonderful, good for you, people are surprised, they're kind of shocked. And I think that when you start making that something you do regularly, it feels great to do it, but you realize how much people are really out there, no matter how much we assume that they're fine and they don't need any feedback, and they're competent and capable. We all need feedback. So I think that in some ways it's the intention is just saying something when you notice something that is truly, specifically, and meaningfully positive about what somebody's up to.